Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg. He just did a microphone adjustment and joined in the Zoom meeting by our friend Bart over in Europe, and always glad to have him and others from around the planet in the Zoom meeting. Always makes for an interesting class when we get more questions. So let's just jump right in and say hello to Rabbi Goldberg.
Good evening, everybody from Israel. Hope everything is fine by you. We, as usual, in the last few months, basically today we noted the third month for this war that we are forced to be part of it. And unfortunately, those people, those animals, just again today and a few days ago, they found second time or more than second, another time, not second time, another time, the Mein Kampf of Hitler as one of the books in the between among the Hamas people, and I think it's explaining a lot of their behavior in the last in the day that how they behaved. This is what we're fighting. There is a cycle of the world, of the history of the world, and unfortunately we need to fight it. So this is what we need to do, and this is what we will do. And let's jump inside and learn something very important from Genesis, but this time I want to show this from a different angle. And what I want to do is to learn something from the Kuzari book. Again, it will be the Kuzari with Genesis. We will see. We will jump from from part to part, and I will say I never taught this part, but it's a time to teach it. I will remind all of us what's happening in the Kuzari, and then we will see it in inside. The Kuzari starts with a dream. First of all, it's a true story about El Kuzari, one of the kings. He's on the Red Sea, somewhere there in the north. It's more or less the region of Ukraine today, something like that. Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, somewhere there. That the sorry, the Caspian Sea. Okay, yes, yes. I think in English you say the Caspian Sea. In Hebrew you say Yam Adom there. Yeah, never mind. The Caspian Sea, yes, and it's a true story about a kingdom that the king there started to research and to find for himself, the truth. It started with a dream that he had. Uh, the truth is that we don't know exactly what happened and how it happened. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is taking the principle of the true story and building up something very nice as a story, between the king and that he is finding or looking, searching for the truth. And the reason why Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is starting with a dream is because each one of us have some sort of a desire inside, a dream inside to fulfill and to give meaning to his life. And the dream is also, we'll say, the liaison, the connection between the reason and the logic that we have and things above it a bit. When we go to sleep and we're putting the logic and the reason a bit to sleep, then suddenly with a dream, we can start to find all sorts of ideas that are much above what we have. We can see this also with people who invented a lot of things. They're telling us that part of the inventions started with the moment that they went to sleep and they had a blink of idea. And this is where they started to think about organizing the bulb that we have that is giving us light, all sorts of things that we know that it was in the mid time between the logic and the thought and the reason and the dream. The dream is something that is giving us desire. The continuance of the story is that this Al-Kuzari is studying with the philosophers, is inquiring, he's looking, he's searching for what is the right religion, or what is the right way to worship God. And he's starting with the philosophers, he's denying them, he's saying to them that they are wrong. Then he's continuing with the Christians, he is also denying them, putting them aside. Then he's continuing with the Muslims. And at the end, he's saying, I have no choice. I need to speak with the Hebrew people and to understand them. And from there on, the story is much inside because it's showing the principle, or it's in the mindset of the Hebrew people and how it's working. But what I want to learn tonight is the Islamic part, okay? The Islamic part, with the Islamic part. So let's start. Let's dive inside and start to really see it, and it will help us to see what's happening. Just a moment. אפי, אני באמצע שיעור עם בני נוח. אני באמצע שיעור עם בני נוח. נדבר. יאללה, ביי. Okay. So here it is. After that, please read this part. This is already after the philosopher.
He then invited one of the doctors of Islam and questioned him regarding his doctrine and observance.
Okay, so this is where we're standing now. It's not a long part, but there's a lot of important issues that we're going to address from those words that we're going to see now. So first of all, let's read the first part. This is a very short one, please.
The doctor said, "We acknowledge the unity and eternity of God, and that all men are derived from Adam and Noah. We absolutely reject embodiment, and if any element of this appears in the writ, we explain it as a metaphor and allegory. At the same time, we maintain that our book is the speech of God, being a miracle which we are bound to accept for its own sake, since no one is able to bring anything similar to it or to one of its verses. Our prophet is the seal of the prophets, who abrogated every previous law and invited all nations to embrace Islam. The reward of the pious consists in the return of his spirit to his body in paradise and bliss, where he never ceases to enjoy eating, drinking, woman's love, and anything he may desire. The requital of the disobedient consists in being condemned to the fire of hell, and his... Can you scroll up a little?
His punishment.
And his punishment knows no end."
Okay, so this is what he is saying as a beginning. He have here a lot of things, but the first thing that we need to note, let me close for a moment this noise that I'm getting all the time. Fuck, that's it, enough. Let's go back. Not this one. Sorry, this one. The first thing, and we need to acknowledge that, and we need to admit that, and we need to say it loud and clear. The Ishmaelites, I will say belief, they're not worshipping idolatry. Not like the Christian who are worshipping also, idolatry, where they believe in the Trinity, and they believe also in a human being, that God became a human being, and he is a human being, and he's a God, and worshipping all those three together. So it's some sort of what we call avodah zarah b'shituf. It's with, not only they believe in God, they believe also in something else, not only God. The Islamic people don't believe in anything else except God, and halachically there are two main important differences between our relation with the Christian and our relation with the Islamic. Okay, I will give one by heart, and one I will show you also in the Maimonides. For example, me as a rabbi, me as a Jewish person, if someone will invite me to the church, I won't go inside. I'm trying to avoid myself as much as possible from being inside a church. A church is a place of idolatry, and as a Jewish, I'm not going there. The only way that I can be in a church is by when I'm going as an art to see the art parts of the church. But also then I will try to avoid it as much as possible, because the Jewish people don't want to be related with the church. But to go to the mosque, we are allowed. Not only we are allowed to go to the mosque, we also are allowed to pray there. because the mosque where the Islamic people are praying, they're not praying to idolatry, they're praying to God. A very interesting difference between the Hebrew, I will say, between the Muslim tradition and the Christian tradition. I will say another thing that I don't know how much it's known, but I will say it. When a Christian is opening the wine, the bottle of wine, we're not drinking from it. The Jews are not allowed to drink from a bottle of wine that a Christian opened. But when a Muslim is opening a bottle of wine, not in purpose for serving me, but for himself or something, I'm allowed to drink it because he's not doing any idolatry. This I want to show this also in the Maimonides. It's a halacha in the Maimonides. Okay, there is a very long chapter here. Okay, that the Maimonides is explaining how you are not allowed to drink from the wine that the Christian person opened. But please read the halachic 11 here. Okay.
Okay, it says, it appears to me that anywhere in this context that we have stated that our wine is forbidden to be drunk, but it is permitted to benefit from it because of the possibility that a Gentile touched it. We are speaking about the instance where a Gentile is an idolater. If, however, the prohibition has arisen because of a Gentile who is not an idolater, e.g., an Arab, who touched our wine unintentionally or tapped the top of the barrel, the wine is permitted to be drunken. Similar laws apply in all analogous situations.
So he's saying here, loud and clear, he's speaking about the Arab. The Arab is being outside from this halachic chapter, okay, that when a Christian person is touching the wine, we are not allowed to drink from this wine. But if an Arab is touching the wine unexpectedly, not in intention, things like that, we are allowed to drink this wine because they are not doing idolatry. He is writing it also in other places, but I don't have it in English, so I didn't wrote it. And he's explaining that the Maimonides, who lived among the Arabs in Egypt, he lived among the Arabs. He was in Egypt. The Maimonides was the doctor of the king in Egypt. Okay, he was his personal doctor. He lived among the Arabs. He knows exactly about the Arabs, and he's explaining in another place, the Maimonides, that the Arabs in the first, I will say, in the first side of them, in the beginning, okay, they were also worshiping idolatry, all sorts of idolatries, and he's explaining also what, and he's saying, but since Muhammad came, they stopped worshiping idolatry, and they decided to accept on themselves Muhammad is not Muhammad, this big prophet of them. He is a prophet. He is not alien. He is not God. They are not worshiping Muhammad. They are worshiping God, and they're saying all the time, Allahu Akbar. God is the most biggest Almighty. In a moment we will go inside of this. So there is a differentiation between, I will say, the Christian and the Muslims, while the Christian people are worshiping idolatry and the Muslims are not worshiping idolatry. This is the first step that we must admit and we must say, and it is being written down here, okay, that he is saying, we acknowledge, no, don't start with this now. We acknowledge the unity and the eternity of God, and that all men are derived from Adam and Noah. This is just exactly like the Hebrew people. Okay? Now, with this, we must admit that there is a difference between the eternity of God, or the unity of God, I will say, of the Muslims and the unity of God of the Hebrew nation. And let me explain this for a moment. The unity of God of the Hebrew, of the Muslims, is saying, and this is the word Islam, is that I need to downgrade myself in front of this God. I need to demolish myself in front of this God. Those are the words. This is the terminology of the word Islam. Islam is I'm being downgraded in front of God. I'm nothing in front of him. Totally subjugated, without anything to put myself here. I'm nothing. I said it more than once. We can see this with the ISIS. Those are the most extreme group of the Muslims. By the way, there are other groups in the Muslims that are totally different in the other side of the Muslims. Okay, for example, the Sufim. The Sufim, you will find it also. You will find that they are very nice people, very gentle people, very polite people that are doing a lot of things inside themselves, but they are not harming anyone else. But those are the extremes from the other side. Let's go to the ISIS for a moment. And those people that when they meet someone who don't want to downgrade himself in front of God, how did you say this word? There's a different word that you used, a better one. He didn't subjugated himself in front of God. So they will do everything. They will take his head off. They will burn him. They will slaughter him. They will do everything. They will do everything because he's supposed to. Now, this is not what the Hebrew people are saying. We're saying that God Almighty is one, but he is one in a way, first of all, that we can't express it, okay, with our words. And he is one in a way that he is looking for a partnership with men. I will explain this in this way. The Arabs, when they're saying that God is the Almighty, is everything, so one of the consequences of this idea is that we don't have any freedom of choice. Everything, it's called like that. In the Arabic language, it's called, everything is maktuv. Everything is written down. Where do we see that? They're saying that all the accidents, everything that is happening, men have no choice to do something else. You have no choice. You have no freedom of choice. We see this also in the in the roads, Judah and Samaria, where they're driving, not with they are not keeping, I will say, the driving rules. And when we're asking them, why are you driving so in such a nut way, without any, you're not keeping the driving rules, you're not looking on the signs, whatever it is. So they're saying to us, everything is maktub, we need to do whatever we want to do. If someone will die, it's because it was already written down that he will die now at this moment, and that's it. So this Allahu Akbar, okay, this Islam, this thing that is downgrading everyone and saying to you have nothing to do here in this world. It's also reflecting the idea that you don't have really freedom of choice and you don't really have responsibility to your actions. Okay, something like that. While the Hebrew tradition is saying, okay, God the Almighty, he is one. The unity of God is something that maybe we don't even know how to define it. In a moment, I will show this in the Maimonides. But he wants a relation with the human being, and he's giving us responsibility of the freedom of choice, and we are responsible to behave in the right way, so we will be able to progress the world to a better place. It's a different way how to look at this. Let me show this for a moment also in the Maimonides. For this, we need to jump for a moment. It will take me a moment, sorry. This was in Ma'achalot Asurot, chapter 13, what we saw before, okay? But now let's go to the beginning of the Mishnah Torah, and we will see in the beginning of Mishnah Torah, okay, in chapter 1, he is defining the unity of God. It's interesting what he's doing. I think I showed it once, but we can show this again. First of all, he starts with that we need to learn. We need to learn about God, okay? The foundation of a foundation and the pillar of wisdom is to know is knowledge, okay? That there is a primary being who brought into being all the existence. So we need to learn it, something that we need to learn. And then he's defining all sorts of ideas how to learn it, or what to learn, or what exactly we need to emphasize and to learn. For example, that he is this entity is the God of the world, okay, of all the earth, and he is controlling everything, whatever it is. Fair enough. And this is something that we need to learn. You can read it after that. It's very nice to read it. It's very nice words, and everything else. But this is what I wanted to show. No, I lost it. Just a moment. Oh, it is. Let's read 7. Okay, let's read 7. It's interesting to see the source that he's bringing at the end. He's giving the principle, and then at the end, he's giving a source, and you will see that it's something very unique that he's doing. Please.
Okay. 7. This God is one. He is not two or more, but one, unified in a manner which surpasses any unity that is found in the world, i.e., he is not one in the manner of a general category which includes many individual entities, nor one in the way that the body is divided into different portions and dimensions. Rather, he is unified, and there exists no unity similar to his in this world. If there were many gods, they would have a body and form, because like entities are separated from each other only through the circumstances associated with body and form. Were the Creator to have body and form, he would have limitation and definition, because it is impossible for a body not to be limited, and any entity which itself is limited and defined possesses only limited and defined power. Since our God, blessed be his name, possesses unlimited power, as evidenced by the continuous revolution of the sphere, we see that his power is not the power of a body. Since he is not a body, the circumstances associated with bodies that produce division and separation are not relevant to him. Therefore, it is impossible for him to be anything other than one. The knowledge of this concept fulfills a positive commandment, as implied in Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, God is our Lord, God is one.
And I said it already once, okay? Those words, hear, Israel, are not being written in the Maimonides ever. He is taking them out. And he is saying basically that God is our Lord, God is one, and this is something that is being related to everybody. You will see here, it's saying only 4 words. You see, Hashem Elenu, Hashem Echad. He's not saying here Israel. This is something that the Chabad added, where the Maimonides never wrote it. You will never find it in the written Maimonides. I have it up here, and I have it also in other places here. The Maimonides never said it. He never said, "Hear Israel." Okay, this is something that is related to all of the people of the world. This is the unity of God, and this unity of God, when you read it and you understand it, and you also read the before, but also this, you're not asking to demolish men. You're saying that this is some sort of a unity that we don't understand because it's out of our boundaries, out of our logic, and this is why he is one. But he wants with us some sort of a relation. For understanding that, we need to understand. Also, I'm jumping back to this thing. To understand that, we need to realize how exactly the Islam started. And it started with Muhammad, who, when he was 40 years old, he had some sort of an angel, the angel Gabriel. They call him Jibril, okay? Angel Gabriel, that when he was in a cave in the area of Mecca, Angel Gabriel appeared in front of him and gave him some kind of a book or something like that, and he's told him that he need to read the Quran, this Quran that he gave him, and he said it to his wife and to his relatives, and he went away from Mecca to El Medina. Those are 2 different periods of time. We need to realize that he had there in those things. And at the beginning, he saw himself as part of the prophets of the history of the world, like we had Moses, David. He said also Jesus and himself. But I don't know exactly why or how. There are a lot of stories from the Bible inside the Quran that are very different than what the Jews and the Christian are holding. Okay. Now, it's very important to realize the New Testament, what is being called by the church the New Testament, have a lot of different variants. Okay. There are more books in the Ethiopian New Testament than in the European New Testament. There are a lot of variants in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, what the church is calling the Old Testament, we call this the Tanakh, okay, the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, there are not any differences, okay? You have something like, you can count them in one hand, about a letter here or a letter there. We have the exact same Hebrew Bible from all over the world. Now, this part of the Hebrew Bible of the Old Testament, also the Christian agree with this. So the Muhammad, when he started to say all sorts of mixed stories from the Old Testament, he was supposed to be to confront the Jews and the Christians. And this is where he started to get confused, and he decided, or he said, or he stated, I don't know exactly what happened there or how exactly it happened, that he said the Jews and the Christian, they misinterpreted and they, how do you say, zifu, they changed the real that I have. How do you say this word? They changed it. Forged. They forged it. They forged it. They changed everything. And now he decided also the second step was that he decided that everybody's supposed to become Muslim. This is also one step that he did. And another very important thing that he said, that he said about himself, okay? Our prophet, you see this, is the seal of all of the prophets, okay? And that is calling, okay, all the individuals of the nation to embrace Islam only. This is one of the things that he said. And it's giving some sort of, I will say, it's hard to breathe, I will say it like that, okay? The only thing that we have is that everybody is supposed to be, I will say, Islamic, just like the Christian is saying that the only way to have to get I will say to get a release from being, in a sin, is that you need to believe in Jesus. So he is saying the same thing, more or less. He's saying the same thing, that everybody is supposed to become Islamic. And I want to address here something that is very important and that people don't really know. And for this, I want to jump for a moment to Genesis. Okay, let's jump to Genesis and to see something from the beginning of the Islam and the. Oh, no, this one. Okay, all right. We need to have in chapter 16. Okay, please read for a moment. We need to read a bit from this chapter 16 in Genesis. Okay, now we go into the Genesis side, please.
Okay, Genesis 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne to him, and she had an Egyptian handmaid named Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, Behold, now the Lord has restrained me from bearing. Please come to my handmaid, and perhaps I will be built up from her. And Abram hearkened to Sarah's voice. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her handmaid, at the end of 10 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, and she gave her to Abram, her husband, for a wife.
And just a moment. What exactly Sarah is giving Abraham? According to those verses.
For a wife.
He understands that he is going to be for him, okay? No, he understood that she's for a wife, but Sarah is not giving a wife. She's giving something else. What exactly she is giving?
She said, perhaps I will be built up from her.
Exactly, she's giving a handyman. She's all the time. She's calling her handmaid, right? He's not giving Abraham a wife. Abraham understood that she is going to be his wife, but Sarah never said that she's going to be a wife. And let's see what's happening now, okay? And it's very interesting to see. Let's read verse number 4.
And he came to Hagar, and she conceived, and she saw that she was pregnant, and her mistress became unimportant in her eyes. And Sarai said,
we need to understand. We need to understand that there is some sort of, I will say, competition, in behind the scene competition between Sarah and Hagar.
Yeah, animosity for sure.
And Hagar that is becoming pregnant very fast, while Sarah already for a long time the wife of Abraham. She's saying here something amazing. Let's see Rashi for a moment on this verse. It's something amazing to understand what is happening. No, this is the roots. This is the beginning of everything here that's happening. Okay, please read. And her mistress became unimportant in her eyes. Please.
She said, This Sarai, her conduct in secret is not like her conduct in public. She shows herself as if she is a righteous woman, but she is not a righteous woman, for she did not merit to conceive all these years, whereas I have conceived from the first union.
So suddenly she's feeling that she is much above Sarah. We need to realize what is happening here, because this is what will happen along history between the Ishmaelites and the Isaac kids, with the Israelites. So let's see what Sarah is saying to Abraham, please, and let's read verse number 5.
Verse 5, And Sarai said to Abram, May my injustice be upon you. I gave my handmaid into your bosom, and she saw that she had become pregnant, and I became unimportant in her eyes. May the Lord judge between me and you.
She's really angry on Abraham. I must say here something that I don't know how much it's known, but 100 years before the Torah was given, okay, in the Hammurabi laws, Hammurabi was a big king in the region, even before Abraham. There was some sort of a law that if a husband and wife can't bring kids, the wife can decide to take her handmaid girl to give it to her wife, and the son that will become from this connection will be the son of the masters, not from the handmaid. And if after that the master also will have a son, he will be only a servant, and the main son that will inherited everything will be the son of the master woman. And this is what Sarah is saying to Abraham. I'm really very angry with you for what you did. So let's see what Abraham is saying. Please read verse number 6.
And Abram said to Sarah, Here is your handmaid in your hand. Do to her that which is proper in your eyes. And Sarai afflicted her, and she fled from before her.
Okay, interesting behavior where Sarah is trying to show this handmaid who is the boss. who is the most important wife here and who is only secondary wife, who is only the one that is helping to build up this house. And now let's see, it's a very amazing two verses that we need to see. Please, 7 and 8.
All right, 7. And an angel of the Lord found her by a water fountain in the desert, by the fountain on the road to Shur. And she said, Hagar, Sarah's servant, where are you coming from? And where are you going to? And she said, From before Sarah, my mistress, I am fleeing.
First of all, let's see exactly the question, because I think that this is a question that every person in this world is supposed to know to answer for himself. Look at the question for a moment.
Where are you coming
Where
from and where are you going to?
What is your direction? From where did you came? Where are you going? Everyone's supposed to know that. Everyone's supposed to give to himself answers. And this is exactly what he is asking the handmaid, the servant girl. Who are you exactly? And the most amazing thing is that Hagar is answering. She is answering. I'm going away. I'm running from my mistress. I am only the handmaid, and I'm going from the mistress. I'm going away from her. I'm trying to run away from her. And what is the angel is answering her? Read verse number 9.
And the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to your mistress and allow yourself to be afflicted under her hands.
Be aware your position in this house. The position is that she is a mistress, and you need to return there and to know, to acknowledge that she is a mistress and you are only the handmaid of this in this family. But I'm also giving you a promise, and the promise is, please read verse number 10. 10 and 11,
10 and 11. And the angels of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your seed, and it will not be counted for abundance. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, you will conceive and bear a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your affliction.
So we have Ishmael, and there is a very interesting promise, and the promise is that he is going to be multiplied. Multiplied. We said it more than once, but it's very important to understand that. There are two different missions from the kids of Abraham. You have two kids. You have Ishmael, what we see here, the son of the handmaid girl, and you have also Isaac, that will be the son of Sarah, the most important, the mistress. Okay, Sarah is a mistress, and there are two different, I will say, from where they came and where they're going to. While the son of Hagar is going to be the multiply, I will say it like that. He's going to be the one that's in charge to spread the word that there is one God to a lot of people, to multiply. And the son of Abraham and Sarah is going to build up a nation. He's not going to do this to everybody in the world. One of the things that the Ishmael, the Muslims are very against us, is how come we're not trying to force all the world to become Jewish? And we're saying to them, this is not our mission. Our mission is not that everybody will become Jewish. We believe in the 7 laws of Noah, and we prefer that everybody will be themselves, and also just to keep the 7 laws of Noah, or whatever they want to keep more, or something else, and we will guide them. But the Ishmael, I will say, destiny, they are going to, this is their mission, is to be multiplied, to spread the word of God, of the unity of God, and one God to a lot of people. Where do we see this again? We see this again in the next chapter. In the next chapter, God is promising Abraham, he's asking him to do circumcision, and he's promising that he will have a son. Okay? We can hide the Rashi for a moment. And he's saying to him, he's changing his name. He's saying to him, walk before me and be perfect. He's changing his name. And then he's saying to him, please read verse number 8.
8. And I will give you and your seed after you the land of your sojournings, the entire land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be to them for a God.
And we know already from chapter 12 that he asked him to become a great nation. And this is how they're going to become a great nation. And for that, he's asking also that they will do circumcision. Please read verse number 11.
11. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be as the sign of a covenant between me and you.
Okay, so we have this thing. And then we continue on. And let's read verses 15 and 16, 17, and 18, please.
Okay, verse 15. And God said to Abraham, your wife Sarai, you shall not call her name Sarai, for Sarah is her name. And I will bless her, and I will give you a son from her, and I will bless her, and she will become a mother of nations. Kings of nations will be from her. And Abraham fell on his face and rejoiced, and he said to himself, will a child be born to one who is 100 years old, and will Sarah, who is 90 years old, give birth? And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael will live before you.
It's amazing to see. First of all, we need to understand Abraham. It's the first time that God, that is above nature, is promising some sort of I will say, a miracle. And this is where Abraham is a bit surprised. We never saw a miracle till now in the world. So he's saying, well, I'm 100 years old. We never saw that someone so old can give birth. Also Sarah, she's not a young woman. She can't give birth. And he's praying, if only Ishmael will live before you. Now look at the answer of God. Okay. By the way, our sages are saying that this sentence, the Hebrew nation is paying a very high price because of this sentence. But let's see exactly the answer of God, and let's see the two different missions that there is for the Hebrew nation with Isaac and for the Ishmael nation. Please, 19, it's a Hebrew nation. 20 is the Ishmael nation.
Okay, 19. And God said, indeed, your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you shall name him Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And regarding Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. He will beget 12 princes, and I will make him into a great nation.
So the multiply side, okay, is going to be with Ishmael, while with Isaac, he is going to get to get this land and the covenant, okay? But my covenant will be established with Isaac, and you will see this next year. So we have here two different, I will say, from where you're coming and where you're going. We have one that is the son of the handmaid, and one is the son of the servant, and each one of them have a different destiny in what he's supposed to do in this world. And this is one of the main, I will say, problems that we have between Ishmael and Israel today, okay? Also today, but not only today, since Ishmael started. They don't want to agree that they are not the sons of the main wife of Abraham, but they are the sons of the servant wife of Abraham. And they are trying all the time to demolish us, to wipe us off this world, because as long as we are here, it's reminding them that they are not the sons of the most important woman of Abraham. This is more or less what's happening. It's continuing also with what that they're saying with the Quran, and that the Quran is the most important book, okay? And everybody's supposed to accept the Quran, and that's it. And they are fighting against the Jewish since of the beginning of their, I will say, foundation of this nation. There is a difference between the surah, this is how it's called in the Quran, okay? The writing that was in Mecca that was prizing the Hebrew people, and the surah, the writing that is in El Medina, the second part of Muhammad, that was demolishing the Hebrew people. And there is always some sort of a dual relation against the Jewish people. And if we will continue, Rabbi Yoshli, I will continue a bit more, and then I will give you the place. Please continue verse number 6, where the Kuzari is answering him, please.
Okay, so said to him the Khazari, if anyone is to be guided in divine matters and to be convinced that God speaks to man, whilst he considers it improbable, he must be convinced of it by means of generally known facts, which allow no refutation, and particularly imbue him with the belief that God has spoken to man. Although your book may be a miracle, as long as it is written in Arabic and non-Arabic, as I am, cannot perceive its miraculous character, and even if it were read to me, I could not distinguish between it and any other book written in the Arabic language.
The Kuzari is all the time is still debating with himself. How come you're saying that there is some sort of a connection with God, the Almighty? I don't understand that. This is what he's saying in the beginning of this part. And then he's continuing on, he's saying, you're saying that this is the book, the almighty book, the best book of whatever it is, but it's only written in the Arabic language. Therefore, it's not related to all of the rest of the world who is not speaking Arabic. Maybe it's really something amazing book, but it won't help us because it was supposed to be written in a language that everybody can understand. I can't understand this book. Therefore, for me, it's not something so, amazing. So maybe for those who are reading Arabic, it's an amazing book, but it's not something for the whole world. So two problems I have here. Okay, one is that I don't agree with this thing of prophecy, and the second one is that you're saying that this book, and I'm supposed to accept this Arabic knowledge because of this book, but this book is for me sealed. I don't understand Arabic. For me, it's not such an amazing. And let's read 7 and 8, and then we'll finish because this is. I know what we can jump it a bit. Okay. I want more to read the way that at the end he's trying to prove that that God spoke with the men is by this one. Number 9, please.
Okay, the Islamic doctor said, is not our book full of the stories of Moses and the children of Israel? No one can deny what he did to Pharaoh, how he divided the Red Sea, or divided the sea, saved those who enjoyed his favor, but drowned those who had aroused his wrath. Then came the manna and the quails during the 40 years. His speaking to Moses on the mount, making the sun and stand still for Joshua, and assisting him against the mighty. Add to this what happened previously, the flood, the destruction of the people of Lot. Is this not so well known that no suspicion of deceit and imagination is possible?
Now, basically, he's saying to him, look, God spoke with men. God did a lot of miracles here, but all of his evidence are related with the things that from the Hebrew nation and before the Hebrew nation. And the conclusion of this with the Kuzari is indeed, I see myself that I need to ask the Jews. And always we've learned from part 11 here, from note 11, where this is basically where the Kuzari is trying to find some sort of a proof or ideology or understanding how God, the Almighty, who created this world, is speaking with men. So also the Arabics, the Islamic, we'll say, group, just like also the Christians, they are the foundation of God speaking with men starts with Moses, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, with Moses, and with Joshua, with all of those points. Therefore, the Kuzari at the end is coming to the Hebrew nation. But we saw here tonight a bit, I will say, the main debate that there is between the Islamic world and the Hebrew world, and how it's being written down in a very interesting way inside the Genesis chapter 17, and also in chapter 18, where each one of them have a different mission from where they're coming, where they're going to, and the mission, where they're supposed to go is a different mission, and each one of them is supposed to understand from who exactly is also the master and who is the son of the servant, and it will help put everything in the right proportion, because the Hebrew nation is never trying to demolish anyone else. This is not what we have in our mindset. The relation that we have with God is not something that is demolishing anything, not in front of God and not in front of everybody else. And this is one of the differences that we are facing today, where in the seventh, in Simchat Torah, the seventh of this month, 3 months ago, they came and they demolished everything. They raped, they killed, they burned babies, alive babies. They did a lot of things that are demolishing the Hebrew people because they want to move us aside. They think that if they will move the Hebrew people aside from this world, they will become the masters of the world. While we're saying we are here, we are not going to get lost. And I must admit, and this is something that you all need to think about, the West is the next. They want to do the same for the Christians, but we learned here the foundation of this, we'll say, fight and how it's working. After all, also the Muslims are supposed to use, I will say, the foundation from the Hebrew religion to bring their ideology to the front. And this is something that is driving them nuts. Rabbi Shmuel, please.
No, it's a bit late. I don't know how much people have patience now to hear. I mean, you had such an important session that I'll say a couple of words. I mean, I think a little bit differently than some of what you said, but I will say it in very simple terms. Most of it, I imagine, we agree about. There were two different purposes. There was the purpose that was given to Abraham's purpose was given to Sarah. Sarah's mission was to raise a Jewish child that would be the common offspring between her and Abraham. And that was her prime interest and prime mission. And I don't need to say that raising Isaac she did with absolute excellence. To that end, Ishmael was the son of the maid Hagar. Not only was a disturbance, his lack of ethical behavior, something which particularly concerned her about the fate of her own child. And that's what it says in Genesis 21, when she actually asks her husband to get rid of the servant and her son, because I don't want him to inherit with my son, not financially, but the legacy that Ishmael was representing was totally counterproductive to what Isaac was meant to be brought up as. And ever since, besides what Rabbi Goldberg beautifully said about Ishmael being somewhat of a servant and secondary towards Isaac, ever since, I think, and I'm not a feminist, but I think that a part of the reason why Ishmael developed into be such a violent religion is because he doesn't really have a mother. Hagar was not somebody who really, in the long run, look after Ishmael, except for organizing him a wife from Egypt. When she encounters trouble with her son, she throws him under the bushes. That's mentioned directly in Genesis 21. They don't have a mother and a tender upbringing from the very beginning. Ironically enough, when the Kuzari was written, the Jews in Spain suffered a lot more from Christian Spain than from Muslim Spain. This was going on for many generations. In general, in Europe, the Jews suffered from Christianity much more than from Muslim. And as the rabbi mentioned about the future, about the Muslim-Christo relationship, we, since in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration, became potentially, in their eyes, a competition. because they wanted to have the entire Palestine, and that 22 states around were dominant as Muslim or Arab. And there was a combination there between a religious group of what they call the Mufti and his organization, which were pro-Hitler, and secular politicians within the Arab world who were concerned about the potential of a Jewish state. The extreme hatred that developed by the Muslims towards us in the last 110 years, approximately, is primarily because of the threat that we all of a sudden are as somewhat of an interruption to their entire occupation of the Middle East. And what started off with some religious leadership over there, but mainly political leadership of people that were actually more secular, the more the Muslim became fundamental, the more pro-Hitler attitude has been developing. Iran is not far from that, and it's slightly in a different wording. And Hamas are supported financially and everything through Iran. But the pro-Hitler development that started already during World War II is continued totally by them till this very day. And if you read their roster, you'll see that the idea is to basically remove the Jews from the face of the earth in general, and certainly in most particular in the Middle East. I don't think that we need to rationale that throughout history they were our arch enemy. There was a different role that Abraham had. Abraham was meant to be the father of many nations, as the Rabbi beautifully explained. That's why Abraham said at least Ishmael should remain, because that's part of the mission that I was given. And he was sure that if God promises that there will be a continuation through Sarah, it will happen, whether he will do it or God will do it in a different way. And Abraham doesn't decide for God how to go on and make his missions work. But he does have a task to continue the idea of being a father of many nations. And his great-grandson, Joseph, in Egypt, is the one who does the biggest effort in biblical history to try to find a major role for the non-Jewish world to be part of a general relationship with God. The thing is that now in the 21st century, there's such a mix-up between secular politics and religious fanaticism that most of the people who did not live in the region till the 1970s don't understand that the situation was very different in the past. And it's just getting worse to an extreme because of fundamentalist religion. And as the Rabbi explained, in Europe, that's what's happening now. After the Jews were wiped out, 35% of them, of the world Jewish population, 35% wiped out between 1940 and 1945. The result is that all of Western Europe was emptied out of Jews, except in England, which defeated the Germans. And therefore, if you don't have the Jews, you have the Muslims instead, because they also want to develop, they also want a culture. A lot of them prefer to be in more civilized areas than in the Arab states in the Middle East. And because they have a very high birth rate, which relatively to the Europeans, they will overpower them in a short time. This is an obvious reality. So the question is, like in American terms, if you can't beat them, join them. That's the normal English attitude. But people that have a more sensible understanding realize, as the Rabbi is saying, that these people have been living on sword, and that Muhammad changed so much of the testaments in his own direction with absolute, not only forgery, he himself was analphabetic. He had very little background of his own. And the truth is that anybody who learned, I do have a bit of background in the Arabic language. One of the main problems is what they call the hadith, or the oral law of Islam, because the Quran itself can be explained in different ways. Not all of it has to be violent, but in the so-called oral law of the fundamental Muslims, there are a lot of extreme things and atrocities which otherwise would not be acceptable. So I just want to wish all of you a very nice and positive, peaceful week. In no way was I trying to disagree with what the rabbi is saying. I just want to show a different outlook from what I call a little bit realpolitik, which I think we are living amongst this in the last couple of months.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Hirschler. Always good to have you with us. Yeah, it's definitely a more modern twist than the ancient roots of the story. I see that Rabbi Goldberg shared for sure, but unlike us here in the West, we face more Christian population, and I always see the debate is always when it comes down to Hashem, the question in their eyes is whether the knowledge of God is transcendent or immanent, as they push immanence, and as if it's certain things can be known by humanity. And this is one of the I see there's an arrogance in the notion of immanence that the human mind can perceive the infinite nature of Hashem, and it's the draw for me towards Judaism had to do with the greatness of Almighty God, and we see that the Muslims don't have the same difficulty, but the root of the problem, being the promise, and I like how Rabbi Goldberg shared that, goes all the way back to Adam and Eve hiding in the garden, where Hashem said, "Where are you?" And you went through that so fine-tuned with us before, and I think that's a question we all need to ask ourselves. Where are we in relation to our purpose for being here? And how we behave
But I mean, with honesty, if you look at commandments 6, 7, and 8, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, or as properly understood, thou shalt not kidnap, because talking about theft is mentioned in Leviticus 19. 3 commandments, one after the other, the most fundamental principles of any society, that murder, rape of women, or anybody, or kidnapping, are things which are beyond any civilization. I mean, how can you have a religion that promotes violence? It doesn't make any sense.
It's uncivilized behavior for sure, and I think the world needs to see it in its proper context for sure. Does anybody in the group there have anything to say? Good to see you, Angelica. I think the last time we had her, she was really promoting that Noahides have babies, and the reality is, that seems to be the Muslim MO. Move somewhere and outpopulate. And Nathan, I see Nathan Murdoch's with us. He's got his hand up. Nathan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? Good to see you all. I did have a question. That one spot that we were talking, Rabbi Goldberg, about Maimonides, and how he was saying the statement he was making was evidenced by the world being a sphere and that it was constantly in motion. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I'm not sure that I understand about what you're referring. Please explain a bit more.
The rotation of the globe.
That one part that you were sharing from Maimonides, and he was saying that something was evidenced by the fact that the sphere was constantly in motion.
Yeah, it has to do with the laws of physics and the fact that our Earth spins. And
basically, what it's a very profound thing here. Okay, that we need to learn. But basically, what it says that the world that we know, that we knowledge today in our life through the senses, is a physical world. There's a very big debate between the Hume and Berkeley on one side and Immanuel Kant on the other side. Do we have, I would say, visualize things without seeing them physically or not? Okay, but let's leave this aside. For sure, we have in our mind today, we are relating to physical things. And what the Maimonides is trying to express here that God is above all of this. He is not part of this game. I will say it like that. He's not part of this thing. And all of the definitions that we have that are related with the physical world, God is not related to those definitions. He is something all totally different. He is above the definitions. He's above all of those things. And he have nothing to do with anything that is related with the physical side of anything. And if he would have had something like that, any part of body or form of body, so it was automatically supposed to say that you have more than one. But we're saying that God is one. God is one, so he's not anything that is related to a physical thing. It's a spiritual thing that we don't know when we are alive. One of the most amazing, I will say, situation is that to be a soul, okay, up in heaven there, that is coming to the body. We have, at the moment that we're going to the body, we acknowledging the world through the senses and through the physical side, and we are losing the spiritual side in some sort of a way. So we have a spiritual way to live this world, but it's a very related to what's happening in this world. Therefore, we don't understand. We can't define in our words, in our I will say environment, exactly this oneness of God that is a spiritual 100%, because we see the world and we feel the world through the senses. Therefore, there is a 100% differentiation between us and God. This is what the Maimonides is saying here in one short explanation.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anybody else in the group have anything they want to add or say or ask the rabbi?
Okay.
I guess I have another question. Because we've been doing some of these other studies as well. I'm wondering about in relation to adding or taking away from the commands and how that's prohibited. How does that apply to Noahides in terms of if the Noahides have the 7 laws, how do we ensure that we're not adding or taking away from them? And is that as much a concern? Is that prohibition communicated to the Noahides in the same way?
We said it more than once, and I will say this again so it will be clear. The 7 laws of Noahide are all things of prohibition, not to do. Don't kill, don't steal, don't do, idolatry. Don't do things. And this is something that is giving a very large common to all of the people of the world. Everybody can avoid himself from doing bad things. From now on, all those who wants to do, I will say, active way of getting relation with God, we wrote this book of the Brit Shalom book, where we're showing a lot of things that you can do. I'm saying this is in general. If someone have a specific question with himself or that he wants to ask or something, this is where we have the rabbis to express. So there is a broader way of doing more and more active things to get related with God. And it's all written down, the borders are written down in the Brit Shalom book. But it depends. Each one of the people around can decide for himself. I'm taking this, I'm taking this. One of the things that we are urging, or we're saying that it's very important that people can do is, for example, to pray. I think that praying is a very important thing because it's showing that I'm accepting God in a positive way. Because to whom I'm praying, if someone have difficulties with his finance or have difficulties, God forbid, with his health or someone in the family health, and he's approaching God, so he's accepting on himself that God, the Almighty, have the possibility of helping. So it's doing in an active way, showing that I'm accepting on myself God to become my God. So this is something that we're saying to everyone. It's very important. It's very good. Do it for yourself. Pray. Everything else. But another thing that we're saying that is very important, very nice, and very important, very blessing to do is to give charity. But those are things that we can't. I will say we can't force or demand, everybody to do those things. We have a common, very large, I will say, common laws that are at the level of withdrawing yourself, not doing something, and this is where it's for everyone in this world. Read again the Brit Shalom book. It's very simple. This morning I got a question, a very long one, 8 minutes. Someone recorded a question, okay, that he wants to do the mezuzah, to put the mezuzah on his door. We have explanation how to do that in the right way. Again, you want to put a mezuzah? Okay, fair enough. We're explaining to you how to do that. You don't need, not everybody's supposed to put a mezuzah, especially not in those days that, it's a bit harsh with the Muslims in your countries. But there are those who wants to do that. Fair enough. There's a way. You're supposed to do that. No. Italo, long time no see. How are you doing? Okay, I hope it answered you. Nothing. Nathan.
Yeah,
Okay,
that does help.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Hey, Rab.
Italo, long
nice,
time no
nice
see.
to see
How are you doing?
Yes, I've been missing a lot of classes. I didn't know you were back
Okay.
on. I wasn't.
I
I
will call
wasn't
your
sure.
parents. Fair enough.
Nice to see you
High school
again. Nice to
principal,
see the Ravs, both
Fair
of
enough,
you,
listen.
Ravs, and everybody, Bart. Everybody's nice to see you again. I have a few questions, like always. Maybe first of all, are all Muslims considered descendants of Ishmael? Ishmael?
Again.
Are all Muslims considered
No,
like
no,
no,
not at all. Not at all.
not at all. It's just the
Not at
Arab.
all. It got spread over also. This Muslim also ideology or faith got also spread over. And also there are groups in India, for example, there's a group of almost 150 million people. Okay, 10% of the population there, a bit less, or maybe a bit more, maybe 12% of the population there. But they are behaving in a different way from the Muslim of ISIS, for example. Or these also the roots of the, I mentioned it in the lesson. Not all of them are the descendants of the Ishmael, but this is one of the things that Ishmael took on himself to spread the words of one God. In India, they have the Sikkim. You know what the Sikkim is? Those with the red hats.
Okay. Yeah, that's
More than 60 million people. They are very, in a great manner, great behavior, believe in one God. They're very good people. They're not in the mindset of ISIS. ISIS, by the way, is a group that is going along with one of the forefathers of the Muslims from, I forgot his name. I showed it a few weeks ago. Not everybody is going on this way of the Muslims, okay? And not everybody there is from Ishmael. We know to describe today who is from Ishmael and who is not, but never mind now. But yes.
And another question, I was wondering, let's say a Christian says to you, I'm going to pray for you. Is that a positive or a negative?
It's a great question.
How
It's
should
really
I
a great
see that?
question. The truth is that the answer for that is the real answer. If you're praying to Jesus, so thank you, but I don't need it. Okay. Now, the main question is it going to bring a fight with the person that is praying for you? If it's going to bring a fight, say to him, thank you, and go away. We know that it won't help. But fight for that, it's not worth it. If it's someone that will listen to you, and when you will say to him, but if you're praying to Jesus, so thank you, I don't need it, and he will listen to you, won't bring a fight.
It's okay.
So okay, but
Okay.
you need to be aware. You don't need to insult anyone. We know that it's worthless to pray to Jesus.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay,
But
okay,
if he believes and he wants to do to your favor, thank you very much. Go away. Don't bother even too much to discuss it with him and anything else.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I agree too. Well, some people wanted to pray for me, some Christians, and I just say thank you very much. I don't need it right now, and it's just okay. It's just a simple
Yeah,
no
yeah.
thank you.
We have evangelical zombies over here. Arrgh, they want to,
Yeah,
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 they want to just pray all over you, and
yeah.
yeah, they're a little far out, and yeah, so yeah, best to just no, thank you, don't need any, not today, nope, not ever.
Exactly. Yeah, but not start to fights and things like that. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. We don't need to take upon ourselves, to get insulted and to fight with someone because they're doing, bad ideas. So it's not worth it. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay, we need to. I need to go.
wind it down.
Next week, hopefully, yes. Why not? More than if it will be okay. If hopefully nothing will be, changeable and some things like that. We will meet next week.
Well, we're glad to see you're feeling much better. Last week you sounded so stuffed up from your cold, but you said you were feeling better than you were earlier in the week, and we're glad to see you sound your normal self. And we're praying for you, for your health and your strength, and all of
Yes,
Israel.
I want you to pray also. Great.
Oh, yeah, lots of room for growth here for sure. Yeah. Oh, Nathan
Okay.
says, thank you, Rabbi. Okay, so on that note, we're going to sign out for now, and I will be back in about an hour and 10 minutes with Rabbi Carmi Ingber. He's been going through a deeper meaning of the seven mitzvot and really throwing the modern day realistic twist, and that's on the Nativ Zoom room. And so we'll be back in about an hour and 10 minutes with that. Till next week, we'll be back with more Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, and always a joy to have Rabbi Hirschler weigh in and share something always well-meaning and interesting for sure. Till then, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Blessings to you all. Thanks. Bye.